this conversation kind of keeps going, even when we think about, there's the EDI practitioner world that we live in. There's also people who are activists, for example. And there's a difference between being an activist and being more of a facilitators, right? That's what we are. We're facilitators, we're strategists. Activism is different. Activist is kind of right, wrong, good, bad. We spend more time kind of in the middle, kind of facilitating people moving along a developmental continuum, either individually or within their organization or within an industry or at a systems level. And I do feel like there's a ridiculously important place for that. But there's also, even inside of these other spaces like activism, these really specific and judgmental ways in which we expect our activists to live and exist. Right. And there are these old mental models, like you have to be broke, you can't have any life or livelihood outside of your activism, you can't ever have fun or smile, right? I feel like, those of us who have decided to do work that is really kind of mission driven in certain ways often have the additional burden of having to deal with the judgments for people who are like looking from the outside in and making judgments about whether this is the right path and also how we're doing it and how it is that we should be doing it. These kind of armchair quarterback relationships that we have, which is only another layer of burden and I think actually another layer of oppression.
Right. Yeah, it really is. And I think that I've been told okay, well, the things you do aren't actually gonna change anyone's life or impact them, things like that. And we all who do this work every day, we realize it's an uphill battle in the fact that we all still show up and we're still trying to think of new, innovative ways to make a change.
Yeah.
Versus we always say transformation or what can we do better? What can we change? It's not like we're sitting here on the same practices, on the ideas. We're like, well, these work, these made us money.
Right.
And I think it's the organizations, companies, people that do that, they deserve that scrutiny, but
yeah.
I think it's about learning who you're speaking to.
Right, and I have this conversation all the time. We can't all be Oprah Winfrey's. We can. And so I think I have this conversation a lot as I think a lot of people in our generation want to change the world. And I think we do that. I feel my biggest life changers were teachers who no one will ever know their name, or were my coworker who no one will ever know their name. And so I think that's the biggest part of the uphill battle is we are transforming people. It might take us one person at a time or one person sitting in this facilitation at a time, but I've seen it even working at DJA for not very long, is at the beginning of a course or a facilitation, they're like, I don't know why I'm here, you're gonna make me tell me that everything I do is bad because I'm a white man and I can't do anything right. And then by the end, they're like, oh, that's not at all what you're saying.
Right.
And I'm okay, that changes one person's life because now they are making decisions for other people, and it's a chain of events.
There's no question.
Yeah. And we have intersectionalities of our identities, we also do of our beliefs. And I think this is a really good one where in a way we are activists, and in a way we also are this middle ground practitioner space, but we have to be a foot in both to do it well.
Right.
And I recommend that people who are more activists come over to our side and be practitioners, because that's how we get fresh ideas and new perspectives, but vice versa.
Right.
It takes a little bit of both to move us along.
Yeah. And related to that idea of activism is, we have to have opinions. We're not just agnostic, right? We do have values that we are firmly advocating for and pushing our clients towards. We are saying, no, there is actually something that is too exclusionary, and we're going to strongly recommend. We might not be able to boycott them or do, but we can say, we're going to steer you away from that, and we're also going to make sure that you clearly understand the consequences of not pursuing this more inclusive path or not pursuing this more equitable path. And so we still do, in many ways, kind of have our own way of being activists, but not necessarily in the same demonstrative sort of way. A lot of times it's us kind of shepherding people, oftentimes kind of quietly or subtly through their own decision-making process, but especially people who have a lot of power and authority who want to do right, but they don't always understand, and they need kind of a confidential guide to help them show up in the world that they want to.
Right, because for a lot of people, especially those who make decisions, when you call them out, they shut down and don't listen. When you're in a room with them and your client slowly giving them ideas or shaping their view over time, that makes a huge difference.
Yeah.
And I mean, not to say that those call outs and those boycotts totally have a valid place. But I think for a lot of people, when they don't feel attacked, which some people should be attacked for some things they say, but when they're just trying to make a change in their workplace, I think that they are more willing to listen when they don't feel like they're being attacked, and it's like a full journey with you're learning together, right?
Yeah, we're like translators almost. That's what I feel like sometimes, because again, like our end goal, our mission, very similar, but we are speaking in a way that like might actually move people. And I really like that. I like that visual. We are guiding, and I think the difference between activism is demanding these organizations meet them where they're at versus we meet them where the organizations and the leaders are. And then we guide them along over here.
Yeah.
And that works. People do shut down. People do get defensive. It doesn't really cater an open, honest dialogue or transparency or even encouraging people to grow.
Yeah.
So
I do think that we live in a world where we need all of it, right?
Absolutely,
we need all of it. And but for our work to not be kind of part of that really important formula would be a huge absence. And also, I think that one of the other opportunities that we have and that we can talk about is, how do we create that path forward, right? Because that's the thing that is oftentimes getting in the way for people is they care, they're willing, they have the resources, they have the decision-making authority, but they just don't know, like, what is the end game? What are we actually trying to accomplish? What will it look like when we do it well? And then how do I get there?